Welcome, guys. Welcome to Radio Toons. That sounds weird, huh? Welcome to the Radio Toons podcast. There you go. I'm Steve.
I'm Ernie.
We watched a couple movies this week. All right.
We did.
Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, we saw the one everyone's talking about. The one that actually no one's talking about it. It flopped, didn't it?
Well, not flopped.
Uh-huh.
According to the latest statistics, it didn't play well in China, which it actually wasn't going to because Star Wars just doesn't play well there.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's why Donnie Yen was in Rogue One.
Right, that one did play well. But their projection was like this high number, and then the low number that it's at, like it's supposed to be 130 or something. That's what it's at. Okay. So their projection is pretty much right.
Okay, yeah.
Then there's all this backtracking where they're like, well, it's Memorial Day, not a lot of people are in the theaters. It's like, that is bullshit because Memorial Day is usually huge for movies.
Is it?
Yes, dude.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it's huge.
You mean people were making excuses for the movie?
Yeah, excuses for it. Just a lot of stuff.
Star Wars has fans that will defend it no matter what, so that's just how it is.
Sure.
But before we get into that...
Yeah, because it's a big subject, so we want to give it its time.
Have you been playing anything, or what have you been...
Well, I think from last week, I'm still playing Hyrule Warriors because I forgot to mention there's like 4 different play versions there. Uh-huh. There's free mode, there's legendary mode, there's adventure mode.
All right, but...
And there's just a bunch of stuff, so I'm playing through that.
Well, what else, Ernie? Come on.
And then I picked up Street Fighter Anniversary
Edition. You got
Edition.
Street Fighter Anniversary for Switch.
Because, Steven, I didn't know how else am I going to play Third Strike?
Yeah.
It's on the go.
Yeah, it's not like we have a huge cabinet in our house with Third Strike.
We have an awesome... it comes with like all of the Street Fighters. It comes with the Street Fighter 2 series, and it comes with Alpha series, and it comes with the Third Strike series. So it's actually pretty awesome because I played a little of the Third Strike series, and then I went over and played some Alpha, and then played a little Street Fighter 2, and then went back to Third Strike.
Does it come with Second Impact?
Yeah, all 3. It's Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter Second Impact, or I should say Street Fighter 3, the next generation.
The new generation.
And then Street Fighter Third Strike. And then Alpha 1, 2, and 3.
That's actually kind of cool. In Second Impact, apparently Sean was broken, so that'll be interesting.
Super brokes, man, because they have been releasing, I don't know if it's just Sony, but they've been releasing these retrospectives on the series.
Uh-huh.
And I actually watched it because it caught my eye because I've never understood the isms in Alpha. Uh-huh. And how that came to be throughout the series. It was really interesting. I think I don't want to say this for sure, but it sounds like they're being narrated by James Chen. His voice sounds very familiar to me.
Oh, I didn't even know they were doing those videos. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So there's one for Alpha, there's one for Third Strike, and then there's one for the regular dish.
Nice.
But they're fun. If you have a chance, go watch those because it shows progression and there's no opinion. It's all data.
It's almost like they release these games so many fucking times. They're like, we got to give them some kind of reason to buy it this time.
To be honest, when's the last time you saw Alpha released in all 3?
I'm not going to shit on it because I haven't played it. I was just hearing some things about like the UI is bad. Like they can never.
It's weird.
They can never get. Weird. They can never get like a rematch button correct.
Well, like, because they're emulating the game as is. I will say the Third Strike one is probably the cleanest version of it. Yeah, it's probably soon as you die, kicked right back to the start, the like character select menu. You can jam on that button, kicks you right back to the
that's from the
character
original
select.
Game.
Exactly.
It's called Quick Continue.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like they're just going to emulate the game as is.
Okay, I've been playing a game this week too.
A terrible game.
You know what? Okay, so funnily enough, first of all, I'm playing Beyond Two Souls. Okay, if you don't know what that is, it is a game made by David Cage,
famous for
Heavy Rain.
Sure,
but he also made a game called Indigo Prophecy, which was on PS2.
Right,
and just recently, he made Detroit Become Human.
Well, it's coming out, right? When is the release?
It came out last week, dude.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. People seem to like it, actually.
Well...
People are saying, like... Okay, this is my theory. Indigo Prophecy was a fucking joke. Heavy Rain was a little more like, okay, it's a step in the right direction.
Sure.
I'm playing Beyond Two Souls ready to laugh, which I am. Okay. Constantly. The combat is fucking stupid. The gameplay in general is just really dumb. But I like it for some reason. Like, I know I like stupid shit. I mean, that goes without saying. But there's just, like, little things that I actually do like about it. And it's almost like he finally got it right, like his storytelling method that he wants to use, you know, like it's still getting to me because I'm forced to watch, like, you know, I don't know. But my theory ends with, so now he's doing Detroit Become Human, right?
Right.
And everyone's groaning like, oh, this guy's making another game. But people were actually saying like, oh, it's not bad. So
in terms of what? Like, in terms of gameplay? Like, is there gameplay?
I don't know, because I haven't played it, but in my head I'm thinking, like, maybe the more realistic the graphics get, like, that's what he wanted all along, you know? Because it was definitely, like, strange in Indigo Prophecy on PS2 to see some of these cutscenes, because they just look silly. They're like, they don't look,
because of the models of the PS2.
Yeah, they don't look realistic, and he's trying to tell like this really serious story, and it's just not working. Yeah. And like Heavy Rain was, I mean, like it looked really good back then, but nowadays it just looks kind of silly. You know what I'm saying? Does. So maybe it'll be this thing where like Detroit Human is getting decent ratings now, but then 5 years from now, people are like, wow, this looks like shit. We have way better graphics now, and you know, whatever.
It could be that people are trying to legitimize this game so that. You know that whole thing where people don't really take video games as an art medium?
Yeah.
I think less people are in that camp that say, "Oh, it's just a video game. This is for kids." And there's more people in the whole art thing, and I think people are trying to give it more legitimacy because then it's like, "Well, look, it's like a movie, man."
Yeah.
You know? It's a story.
I definitely understand that. Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're giving it a little play. You know? And I understand that, but it's dumb because like even when movies were first being made, people were like, books are the way to do it. What is this movies?
Yeah.
Like how am I supposed to use my imagination? You're just telling me what, like there takes time to understand the medium.
This game is my guilty pleasure. By all, like, full force my guilty pleasure.
Does that mean you're actually gonna buy that Detroit game?
Oh no, I'm not. If it's free, okay. I'm playing Beyond Two Souls because it was free on PlayStation Plus this month. Right. If Detroit goes down to like $5, which it probably will, because Heavy Rain went down considerably.
Dude, it went down
pretty
so
fast.
Yeah.
Then yeah, fuck yeah. But I can just lay in my bed and play this because it takes absolutely no effort to do anything in this game, and I'm basically just watching like a really cheesy movie at this point, you know. I'm
having flashbacks of Heavy Rain when I'd watch you play it, and then you'd be like, "You want to play now?" I was like, "Okay," and I'd hold the controller and just wait for the prompt.
Yeah.
Know? I will say because if it ever comes up, what do I think of Heavy Rain? Right away when I remember that game, I think this is garbage. But then Steven reminds me that you were into it when it first came out. Yeah, I'm like, you know what? You're right. I was into it.
We were all pretty into it. You know why too? Is like that game really benefits from one playthrough.
Yeah, one,
and that's all.
And that's the problem. It's like as soon as you know what it is,
yeah,
you're like, eh.
Then there's no more tension,
right?
Because even in this game, when you make decisions, it actually makes you like kind of feel bad about it, or like if you made the wrong decision, it tells you, like, oh, other people did this, you could have done this, or like, which is kind of cool.
It sounds like a Telltale game.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't insult it that much, but I mean, I would say like it's what am I trying to say? It's like kind of like a social experiment because after each chapter it tells you, oh, this percentage of people did what you did. This percentage of people
found like Catherine.
Yeah, like they found this way to do it, or they found this way to do it. So in that regard, I'm like, oh, okay, it's pretty interesting. Like as far as like multiple playthroughs go, it's like I'm probably not gonna want to sit through this shit again.
No, not twice. No.
But I would love to see you play it. I would love for us to play it on the show and just watch you play it.
Please leave in the comments below and tell Steven that we should not play that game. If anybody, please.
I want to rig those comments.
But what the other thing we watched, because Steven was kind enough to actually buy it.
Yeah. Okay. We watched Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. I purchased the film with my own money. I scrambled together change from all the couch cushions, and I said, you know, good sir, is this enough?
This is Steven trying to do a bit.
Okay, whatever. Anyway.
Please, sir, can I have Ragnarok?
The movie is not on anything, like streaming service.
No.
And it's been like a year since it came out. I think it came out in November, like last year or something.
Yeah. No, it's been for rent. I think it went on rent on Xbox.
Yeah, you can rent it, but it's like whatever. Anyway, I bought it.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the movie wasn't really overhyped for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were just like, "Oh no, you know, like find some way to pirate it. Don't buy it. It's not a movie that you buy and all this stuff, right? And I ended up buying it in spite of all that. And I really loved it, actually. I gotta say, I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did. Because people kept talking about, like, oh, the humor. The humor is really good in this movie and all that stuff. And when people try to sell me on the humor of something, it's always very, like... To me, it's always like... but what you find funny is not what I find funny, necessarily. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Everyone's got their own, like, idea of what's funny. But I did laugh at it quite a few times. I watched it twice, and I will say that there were a few jokes, especially the ones in the beginning where I was like, okay, those did not hold up the second time around. But, like, all the stuff with Korg, I fucking loved. It was still funny to me.
I missed all the Korg jokes.
Korg is the rock guy?
No. I know who he is, but I missed him.
Like, you didn't like him, or what?
He talks kind of fast and low.
Uh-huh.
And I was watching it amidst my son playing in front of us, so that's why I might have missed a couple.
Okay. Then fun fact, Korg, if you've watched the movie, you know who Korg is. He's like a rock guy, and he talks very nonchalantly and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's the director. That guy's played by the director, Taika Waititi, I believe his name is. Yeah. So I actually thought... remember I told you he directed Moana? He didn't.
Oh, okay.
I was looking at his IMDb, and so the reason he comes up when you search
his name... Is he a voice?
No, he wrote a script for Moana, but it got rejected.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if this was their way of saying, like, hey, you know, we're all good. We'll give you Thor instead. Kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be.
But but yeah, it was. I think it was a good choice. It was like, where was Thor before this? Basically, you know what I'm saying? Like, they needed something to resurrect the Thor franchise, basically, because the first two were like. I honestly didn't even know the second one came out until like 2 years later, and people were like, "Oh yeah, it sucked. Like, don't even watch it." So
the Dark World, right?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, "Okay, so I guess."
Hey, we just skip this one, I guess.
Yeah.
Although, like, okay, so I watched it with the wife and the kid, and the wife really loved it. And for any ladies out there who are listening to this, there is lots of, or at least two times that your boy Chris is shirtless and just for no reason flexing.
Yeah, when I see Thor without his shirt off, it makes me feel like shit.
Yeah, he's pretty chiseled.
Yeah, he's just too good looking.
Too good looking. I looked over at my wife and I was like, "Can you please close your mouth?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Yeah. But there might be some spoilers in here, so just whatever. The movie in turn starts very jokey.
It does,
and it kind of sets the tone for the whole movie because right in the beginning you have this huge monster that Thor beats the crap out of, but he does it in such a whimsical way. And then they throw in some licensed music that usually that bothers me. Whenever you throw in a known song, it kind of irks me because it's like, oh, hey, look, they're all getting together. Let's play "Come Together" by the Beatles.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And it's like those things. I hate those things because it's like, could you be more heavy-handed with this?
I think it varies, you know.
But in this case, when that started, that felt appropriate.
No, yeah, because you have that song "Come Together" in Justice League, and it's like, wow, we get it, you know.
They're coming together.
Right in the title. Mm-hmm. But then you have a song like the Fleetwood Mac song that plays in Guardians 2. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, if you actually listen to the lyrics, it's like, oh, okay, so it is kind of mirroring what Peter's feeling at that moment. And it's a little less subtle, you know, than just like...
But then again, they've
or I should say it's a little more subtle.
But the great thing about Galaxy and the great thing about this is it's woven in so it doesn't feel forced. Like, the attitude, the theme of Guardians 1 and 2 is very heavily influenced like a playlist. Mm-hmm. You know, all the colors and the music and everything, that seems to be interwoven in Peter's personality. And in Thor, they play this, and I don't know why Led Zeppelin and Thor seems to make sense.
Well,
but it just does.
That song in particular is like about like Vikings or something like that. So
sure.
So I mean, it. I get it in that sense.
But I wasn't even thinking that because most of what you hear is like the beginning of it where it's just the yas or whatever you want to call them. Like and those are they really go well with that fight scene. It was like, this is going to be a fun movie.
Yeah, you know, I know what you're saying though. It's like the obvious way to do it would be to play a song about fire or something at that
sure.
point. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. Be like, baby, you could light my
fire. So okay, yeah. But what was cool about this movie too is that so it starts like that, and it kind of continues to be like that throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
It's not like a movie where it's like, oh, here's this licensed music, and then the tone shifts constantly. And then the end is something completely different.
Right.
This is it starts with the immigrant song, and then at the end it ends with the immigrant song. So it's
ends it.
Yeah, and it feels really great because of that. And what's weird too is I always thought this to myself too is whenever they use licensed music, why can't they make it look like a music video like Baby Driver? The first scene in Baby Driver is so good because of that. You know, the music goes with what he's doing and everything like that, and I like that. And they did a really good job, I think, in this one. Because that last scene, oh my god, when they're playing Immigrant Song and he's on the bridge, that scene is fucking
feels
good.
It feels like a heavy metal music video, like you're saying.
Yeah,
because it's just there's lightning everywhere, and there's a huge battle going on with monsters and armor and all that stuff.
I guess we'll work up to that because that scene is. I have a lot to say about that scene because I love that scene.
Well, okay, so it does a little bit of its homework in the very beginning. It sets up, it tells you kind of what happened in Dark World and the consequences of that. But it happens kind of fast and in a very playful way, so much so that you forget that it's exposition, which is a good thing because,
they
again, these are little spoilers, but, since Dark World, apparently Odin has been cast out of Asgard, and Loki has been taking his place. So it's Thor has to show everybody, hey, this isn't Odin. Everybody, and he's like, where did you stash Odin? And then we go to Odin. Then it happens fast, but I kind of didn't mind that. Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happens, and then you immediately meet the bad guy, and she kicks everybody's ass.
Yeah. You know what I was gonna say though? I thought you were gonna mention how. I think the plot of Dark World is in that little play that they show.
Yeah, essentially.
I'm not sure, but I think that's what it is. And that scene, by the way,
it is in a way that it's sure, but it's a very Loki favored version of it. Yeah.
It's funny too because so let me describe the scene to you real fast. Odin is sitting in a chair.
Yeah,
and he's watching a reenactment of essentially what happened at
the end of Dark World.
Yeah, right before this movie, and. I thought it was funny just because Loki is quote unquote dying, the actor, right?
Yeah.
And he's just well, I'm a troublemaker, and then and then Thor says, oh, "You're so mischievous." It's funny.
Think of a Shakespearean type of acting. You know what I mean?
The second time that one got me too.
Not to give too much away, but one of the actors is actually Chris Hemsworth's brother.
Oh yeah.
So there's Chris Hemsworth's brother is playing him in a play in a Thor movie. So it's there's layers there. There's
so many weird little Easter eggs and jokes within little secret jokes like that. You know what I'm saying?
So in the terms of the movie, Thor has an arc in this movie that has less to do with his personality and more with his understanding his own power. So it's a very different arc than the last two. The other ones have been more find your place in the world and your purpose and blah blah blah. But this one is more about unlocking his own power. I mean, and understanding that he's not some physical object.
Okay.
Because right in the beginning, again, this is spoilers. By the way, Cate Blanchett, so damn good in this movie. I loved her in this movie. She was and then my wife was like, "Did you know she's 50 years old?" Because that lady is 50 years old. I was oh my god, that is phenomenal. Anyway. It was in the trailer, so everybody kind of knows, but Thor chucks his hammer at her and she just stops it with her bare hand and she's just what's happening here? And she just boom, it's gone.
I gotta give credit to Marvel for doing that.
Yeah, because that's a risky thing to do.
Well, no, it's not just a risky thing to do. It's it's true to the source material, right?
Sure.
Because that's what happens in the comics. But two, it's they're committing to these storylines that might, displease audiences in a way. You know what I'm saying? Captain America losing his shield at the end of Civil War, and that being okay, that's it. That's the story of Captain America. Is those 3 films? It's I like that amount of restraint that they have on it. If let me further explain what I'm trying to say. In Transformers, Optimus Prime dies eventually,
in the cartoon.
In the cartoon, yeah. And Rod, what is his name? Hot Rod.
Rodimus Prime.
He becomes Rodimus Prime, and he becomes a new leader.
And then
have the Transformers movies killed off Optimus Prime.
Yes.
They tried, they brought him back, so it's almost like they're doing the opposite, where they're like, they know Optimus Prime needs to be in the movie to sell tickets, so they're not going to do that. Whereas, like, Marvel's doing this whole, like, oh, let's just let him, lose the hammer, because that's not all he is, let's show people that he's more than that. Or whatnot.
Even so, like, if you think about just, and this is me thinking as a marketing guy, but in terms of marketing, if you're going to do something drastic to a character, you don't want them to lose their signature look. Like, imagine if they had Indiana Jones in the third movie without his hat.
No, yeah, jacket, I know exactly what you're saying, yeah.
But in this Thor, no hammer, no hair.
Yeah.
And, if anybody's seen Avengers, no eyeball.
Yeah.
So he looks completely different by the end of this movie. He looks almost like a completely new character. And you've drastically changed this character so much that now you have to rely heavily on his personality to be like, oh yeah, only he can play Thor. Because not because he can wear a jacket or a hat or something like that. No, because he's Chris Hemsworth. He just knows how to play him.
Yeah. And what's funny too is, like, that's a good point, is that he doesn't have the hair. You still look at him and you're like, oh, that's Thor.
That's Thor.
Yeah. Like, I know that Tim,
That's Thor.
Yeah.
And it's good that they did that, because if you haven't watched the movie, and I didn't before, but I watched Avengers before I saw that one, and I was like, yeah, that's Thor.
Yeah.
No problems. He didn't have his hammer, he didn't have his trademark cape or his hair or anything like that, but I was still like, I'm in.
I'm a fan of the hair. I love the hair.
You like the short hair?
No, I'm a fan of the long hair.
Me too.
So I was a bit sad to see him have short hair, but whatever. I get it. I understand it.
I don't like him with short hair. I think he loses kind of that godly thing.
Like, to me, it's like gods have long hair. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Which is why I love that. Not to string too much, but when they started God of War, they were like, gods usually have, like, long hair and blah, blah, blah. Let's have Kratos be bald.
Yeah.
That's good. And I was like, I'm a fan of those risks.
No, yeah, I could totally see that.
So in the movie, the thing that people, I guess, didn't realize is, or if you went to go see it the first week, is that Thor when he gets his ass kicked, he gets kicked so hard that he lands on this planet out of the way of the galaxy or whatever, and the other person that's landed there is Hulk. And they have them fight each other, which, phenomenal scene. Yeah. Because it was funny. It was like, if you hadn't seen any of the indicators that Hulk was there, it was surprising. And then the fight itself was great.
Yeah, so they were talking to Mark Ruffalo about the film. And he was basically saying, like, I know a lot of people love Planet Hulk. People wanted Planet Hulk. But this is almost like a little tiny version of Planet Hulk that they merged with Ragnarok to kind of make like a.
It fits really well.
Almost like a super group of a film,
Yeah.
And
I really dug it.
I like the Hulk parts too, and I think they did a good job of integrating him into the story. All of Hulk's parts to me were pretty funny, like him falling. I mean, I won't spoil any of the jokes, but they're great. And I was going to say real fast about the look of the film, because you were talking about, his hair and all that.
I was going to save that for the end.
What exactly, though?
Well, because the shift of this movie has changed so much, like the original Thor and then Thor Dark World, all the tones, like I haven't seen those, I've only seen the first movie, but the second movie and the first movie had a very a dark tone. Like, not tone as in like, oh, they're bloody, blah, blah. I'm talking about literally what's on screen. Was very dark.
Well,
like, the pigmentations were like subdued. Everything was darker. And in this one, the colors and the music and just the spirit of the movie all kind of blended together.
Well, Taika, the director, he went back and he looked at like a lot of Jack Kirby's old art from Ragnarok, like the original Ragnarok comic or whatever the fuck. And he said, he's like, man, they used to use all these crazy colors back then. He was like, the drawings and the costume designs just like really jumped out at me, and he wanted to really make a true on-screen representation of like what was in the comics. And I was like, dude, that's so cool to hear a director say that he wants to be like that faithful to what started it all, like, and like,
well, it's a good way to do it, because if you think about the color scheme for the Marvel comics, you always want to. Well, what they did in the early on was they always stick to primary colors, because those are the strongest colors. That's why Superman is red.
Right.
red, blue, and yellow, right? Yeah. So is Thor. He's red, blue, and yellow. So is Spider-Man's red and blue. Yeah. Captain America's red, white, and blue. You always stick with those things because they stand out among all these other complementary colors that can be in the background. Yeah. And that's kind of what this did. Like, you know, when you land on this planet, I forget what the planet's called, but it's all colorful and a mishmash. So
Sarek, I think, or something like that.
Something like that. And they justify it so well because it's like, this is the dumping ground for everything in the universe. So it's like, you're not going to get a consistent color scheme with all these with all these different junk pieces.
You're definitely right. So, I love how when he lands on the planet too, the scrapper guys that find him, they're all wearing different color kind of crazy masks.
Yeah, because it's all from all over the place. And that's so ingenious to me that even though you don't know, somebody's not like, well, here at the scrap planet, we just use whatever we got to build whatever. You don't need that because you see the motif of things landing constantly. Yeah. And all of them are from different parts of galaxies, different colors. And then you see what they've built. And it looks like they built it out of that. So, of course, that's going to be several different colors. Yeah. And then because of that, the guy was like, look at my style. It's crazy. And it's like, I'm so flamboyant because look at all the colors that I was able to get, you know?
Yeah, the tone of the movie just fits
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum's in the movie. He's a character.
He's fantastic in it too, and that was a surprise when I saw him in there.
No, yeah, and I was gonna say is like he kind of fits the tone of the movie perfectly, which is like this kind of like the way his jokes are kind of like, oh, it's what am I trying to say? It's like the setup for the joke, and then the what am I trying to say? Like, it doesn't give you the punchline. You know what I'm trying to say?
But he gives you enough so you think you know the punchline, and then he circumvents that with something different. Yeah, like he's like, she's my best. What is it like? Or what do I always say when she's around? She's my.
And then she says trash or something.
Yeah, he's like, no, that doesn't even start with a B. And there's this like back and forth between him and his first, like this lady that is either his first or is either his right hand person or the head of the company that he uses to scrap something. Yeah, their play off each other is so good.
Yeah, and then so one of his other chicks or whatever you want to call them, scrappers, you know, is Valkyrie. This she's I guess it's a twist. I don't want to spoil anything, but
you already kind of said it, so there's no putting the.
Well, she's an ex-Valkyrie, so she was a warrior on Asgard, and now she's a scrapper.
Yeah,
but she's like this badass fighting chick that knows all these cool sword moves and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's what would be considered the Navy SEALs here.
Sure, I guess,
our army. That's what the Valkyries are.
Yeah, but she was super cool, and I really liked who played her, Tessa Thompson. She did a really good job, which is, I don't know. It's like, I'm not saying like Marvel's movies have to have a love interest and stuff like that, but it's always kind of cool when they just have a girl character and she's not that, you know? She's not just that. She's like...
I don't think... I mean, I see what you're saying by love interest, but I didn't really feel a love interest between the two of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I felt more like she was just a buddy that they fought together.
That's what I'm saying, is that it was cool that she was like, oh... They introduced the girl, and everyone thinks she's going to be the girl, but it's like, oh, no, she's just this chick that knows how to fight, and she's great at it, and she helps out and stuff like that.
And then I guess that leads to the bridge scene, because this is all like, the Thor and them kind of rise up, and against this, against Kate Blanchett. And he's got his ragtime team. He's got the Hulk, you got Thor, and you got Valkyrie.
Yep, and you also have Loki. Who kind of, he
works his way in there.
Yeah, because he's kind of like the bad guy, good guy. What is it, like the middle ground where he's like I don't want to say anti-hero because I hate that word, but
no, he's more of a. I don't know. He's more of a guy that's just trying to make it in the galaxy, I think.
Yeah. So the bridge scene is the climax of the whole movie.
Right.
You have everyone fighting, but I love that scene because Thor is there, right? His song is playing. He comes in and it's like slow-mo at the beginning, and it's this great shot of him jumping in like all of this lightning down to like this tower of guards or whatever the fuck he's fighting.
You know what's interesting about that scene, and I think this might be why you like it so much. They're doing it in slow motion, but such slow animation. Think about the way that he's positioned. Like he's almost... You know that picture of Jesus as he's ascending to heaven? He's got like his arms out and his legs are kind of like...
It looks godly, yeah.
Yeah, because the way he's coming down is like he's ascending into this battle, but because he's got all this electricity, he's just pushing people back as he's coming down.
It's really cool, actually, because I watched that scene a couple times just because the way like the guards are like crawling onto each other to form like a spear of guards, like a human spear, quote unquote, to like attack him.
That's what I'm saying. The whole scene almost looks like a slowed down painting.
Right when he lands, he like does this fucking Raiden move where like he like spins his body and he like torpedoes through him, and it doesn't look lame. It looks cool. It looks so badass somehow. And then like he's like hitting all these people, and then the next move he does is like he there's like 3 people in front of him, and instead of punching them, he just strikes lightning on them from like above, from the sky or whatever. Right. I'm like, fuck, that's so cool, dude. I was just watching this scene like, oh my god, this is so awesome.
And it's funny because they play that scene up so well, because throughout the entire movie they're saying, what is he, this guy? What is he, Lord of Thunder?
Yeah.
And they keep making fun of him that he's the Lord of Thunder, and he keeps saying, I'm God of Thunder.
Yeah.
And finally at the end you see his kind of like, his power come out.
Yeah, like his
ultimate form.
The end of his arc or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that scene is really, really great, because you have it's not just him kicking ass on the bridge, it's him trying to hold this lady off.
Yeah.
So that the citizens of Asgard can escape.
Mm-hmm.
And then his whole plan is to just blow up Asgard. And if you've seen Avengers, you know that that's going to be it, because the first thing he says is like, Asgard's gone. It's just gone. But it's such a crazy scene with that like loops back to the beginning as to what was supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, man. Like that scene at the end was so good and yet so funny and so full of action. It's great because all those things seem to fit together really well. Yeah. Like the big joke at the end with the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
That was so like, it was so perfect.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, and if you really think about it, like that part too is like almost like, oh, okay, Hulk changed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he's like, okay, some restraint on his part finally, for once. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really recommend it.
That's definitely if you hadn't bought it, I think we would have bought it eventually, because Cindy also was like, we should watch this movie. I keep hearing everybody say it's really great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you know what? I think I've only bought the only other one I've bought is like Winter Soldier.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, so I'm glad I have these 2 in my collection. But yeah, so that was Thor Ragnarok. Now on to a movie that
is pretty controversial if you think about it, because
well,
here's the thing, really quick. Like the Rotten Tomato score, not that scores mean so much to you, but like I think right now it's at 79, but the audience score is like at 50, and usually it's the other way around. Usually a movie scores better with people than with the critics. So I'm like, what is happening? Because usually, more fans of the thing will be like, hey, no, it's good, blah, blah, blah. But I was reading a lot of them, and they're just like, this is worse than The Last Jedi, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what's happening? Either the hardcores are hating it, or I don't know, man.
I'm hearing the opposite, actually. Okay, so this is my theory on it.
Here we go.
I have several theories.
Should we have a little theme song here for Steve's theories?
We should, yeah. No, as you heard earlier in this podcast, my theories. I think the people that give a shit enough about Star Wars still are going to watch it, and those people are like, I like it, Because everybody that I've talked to... So
you think the hardcores are liking it?
Yeah. All the people that I've talked to that have gone to see it are like, I like it. Okay. I liked it, and I mean, I for one, I liked it, yeah, but I didn't think it was great, and I wouldn't even say it was very good.
It's not going to be a buy, right? You're not going to buy it.
No, absolutely not. But there was a lot of I don't know how to explain this, but it's like in my head, I'm like, Ron Howard did the best he fucking could with like scraps of other people's work. You know what I'm saying? Like they switched directors twice, right?
Yeah.
He's a third director or something on this.
Yes. So this is what I heard was the main complaint from the studio. Was that the original script and the original direction of the Solo movie was too jokey and too lighthearted, and they wanted more grit.
That sucks.
Which, I mean, if you think about what we saw, there's jokey parts in it, very jokey parts, and then all of a sudden, like, it feels gritty, and, like, even the tone of the movie, like, it's all one, like, when they start out, Han is in like some sort of slum and he's with some girl and blah, blah, blah. It's all one color. It's all one desaturated color.
Yeah.
And like it seems like that's how the whole movie goes. There's just like this one color that lays over everything. Even in the Millennium Falcon, it's always blue,
Yeah.
And they kind of just desaturate it a little bit, so everybody's skin looks kind of weird. And I felt like, why is it like? And this is before I saw Thor Ragnarok, by the way. So it wasn't like I was used to color.
I was gonna say maybe it's because I just saw Thor Ragnarok, but I thought the colors were really bad.
But I think that had to do with the fact that they were like, well, they want it to be a little more edgy. We got to make it look edgier. We got to make it look more gritty. Mm-hmm. And but you could still see peaks of the old script arise, like when, like for example, all the parts with Chewie and Han were really like, this is my new cop partner, and this is me and him. Is like he says yes, and that kind of thing. Like those parts were really genuinely likable.
Yeah, I know what you're saying because. The parts with Han and Chewie I did like, but they were so far and few between. Like, it's really hard to describe. But let's for instance, the train scene right in the beginning.
Right.
Woody Harrelson. What the fuck is it? Tobias something.
Bennett.
Yeah, he's like, hey, we gotta go steal whatever the fuck.
We gotta do an old-fashioned cowboy
train
heist.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
For some reason throughout that whole sequence, I was like. There's no stakes here. Han Solo can't die. He's in the other films.
Right.
Like, if these people die, who cares? I don't give a shit about any of these characters.
I was under the impression that everybody but Han Solo and Chewie were going to die.
It was like, yeah, it was almost like, I was like, okay, I saw Rogue One. I know no one lives.
Right.
Okay, like, so, what the fuck? Like, you're going to introduce characters to me and expect me to care about them or something? Like, not to say that, like, they couldn't have made them likable. What I'm saying is that they failed to make them likable. Like, Tobias to some extent, yeah, I was like, okay, I get it. He's supposed to be like Han Solo, like, oh, I look out for myself, and I'm a loner. But I don't know, it felt kind of forced. I think that was the tone of the whole movie to me. Was that it was very forced. No pun intended. I'm just saying.
Well, okay, so I also did like the movie, but I had a lot of. In my head, I felt like this is probably something I'm going to hate if I watch it a lot, but the heavy-handedness of it was based in all the things that had to be in this film because they referenced other films. The dice, for example, I was like, stop with the dice, please. You guys did it in Last Jedi, you didn't need to do it here. Like, we understand the importance of the dice. Why can't it just be something he hangs really, really nonchalantly?
I'm starting to think the dice are going to get a spin-off, I'm starting to think like they're already writing the script for the Dice movie. It's
and like for example, like you almost leaned over and said this to me in the theater because when we were watching, I was like, "Damn, he's gonna have a problem with this." I know it. There's a scene where Han in the very beginning, he's in a speeder car or whatever, and he tries to do this move where he makes it perpendicular, like he stands it up on its side and he tries to make it through these two buildings and he fails. And then I was like, you know what, that looks kind of what's like a Millennium Falcon thing. And then lo and behold, that's kind of what he does. But in my head, the audience is smart enough to link those two events together. But in this movie, Han goes through the trouble of telling somebody who was there at the last moment. He says, remember that thing I did at the beginning of the movie? I'm going to do it again, but this time it's going to work. Yeah. And it's like, those things, because there's several of them in the movie.
That's what he said verbatim.
Almost exactly verbatim. Because he literally says, like, remember that thing I did with the speeder at this planet? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, it's going to be the same thing, but it's going to work this time. Literally, that is what he said.
Yeah, and I remember sitting there thinking, like, who's he talking
to? Why did you say that?
Well, I was just like, are you talking directly to me? Because you're not talking to the actors on the screen. You're talking to me. You didn't do that well enough. Like,
sometimes I do that to Steve, and he gets super annoyed with me because he'll be like, it's like that one to blah, 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 blah. And you're like, Ernie, I was there. Yeah. And I was like, oh, right, you were there. And you just get so annoyed with me. But it's like, seriously, this is, like, why did they do those things? Those things were so heavy-handed that I'm like, do you think I'm stupid?
Yeah, I know, and like there was a lot. This movie's just filled with a lot of groaners.
That's
like a lot.
I guess they're groaners, but it's like, is this a movie for someone who's never understood how movies work? I would
hear something in this movie and I would go, I was just like, I get it. Han Solo talking to Lando, and Lando is like, I hate you, and Han Solo goes, I know, and I was like, okay. I get it. Wink, wink. It's like the other movie. And then Han Solo, she's talking to Tobias, and he says, oh, that's your problem. You think everyone's just like you. And I was like, oh, I get it.
What a groaner.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker somehow heard that, I guess, and repeated it back to Han. And
it's quite the groaners. And, we've mentioned this I guess YouTube channel a lot on this channel, but when it comes to Star Wars, you can't not talk about them. But it's like Red Letter Media did their Han Solo.
I want to watch it actually.
Predictions.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
From the last summer, whenever it got announced, and 80% of what they said came true.
Something like that. Yeah.
Here's what's gonna happen. Chewie and Han are gonna get thrown into prison together. And Han's going to be all freaked out because he sees this big Wookiee. But then they're going to escape together and they're going to become best friends. It's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot... I won't mess with it. They just put out a video, so if you watch that, you'll see that a lot of their stuff got
I want to watch their solo review, too, yeah.
It's quite interesting. So all of that is kind of what my problem is with the movie, right? Not anything specifically. I think the language of the movie is what affected me the most, because there was so much in there that was done heavy-handedly, but I think it was because here's the conversation that happened, and this is not for real. This is just this is Ernie's theory as to what happened.
You're the marketing guy.
So after a first draft, and the second director took over, and then the third director was there to just clean up everything. At that point, you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Yeah. And as a person who's been brought into several projects at the last bit, I've been like, dude, just tell me what you want me to do, because I can't just redo this entire movie in 6 months,
Oh yeah.
So I have a feeling that a lot of executives were like, you know what you should put in there, and to make sure that this is well. And he's like, sure, yeah, they want it. I can't fight them. I got 2 days to shoot this, and they want it. So here you go. So I feel like a lot of these groaner parts. Were like, it's not very clear that Han is doing the thing for this. Could you just add a line that says, it spells it out exactly what he's going to say? And Ron was probably like, yeah, let's do that. Fine, let's do it. Because, how are you going to fight somebody when you've got, no time to do anything creative?
Yeah. Let me just wrap up the list of gripes before I move on, okay? Because there's just a few more, and then I'll get into what I liked about the movie.
Yeah, we'll go into that.
There's a scene in the trailer where Han has his hand hovering over his gun.
Sure.
It looks real cowboy-y.
Yeah, right? Which is supposed to be what Han Solo is all about.
Yeah. In the actual movie, when he does that, and he looks like he's going to draw his gun, they tell him to stop, and it kind of
diffuses.
It kind of just kills your boner for Wild West at that point, which I was like, okay, thanks. Immediately after that, they try to explain to me in great detail why I should give a shit about this woman's planet and what she does with her resources and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I get it. As far as oh, okay, we're what am I trying to say? Circumventing, your predictions or whatever, and then doing it again and doing it again and doing it. I get it.
Sure.
You got me. Whatever. But at some point, I stopped caring. You
can't do that enough. If you do that too many times, you're like, I don't care what you're gonna do, because you're gonna go the opposite way as soon as I.
It's like you're pulling you're pulling a toy away from a dog at the last minute. It's like eventually he's gonna be like, oh, I don't care anymore.
That's a good analogy.
I'm so fucking done with this. Yeah. You're just gonna be a dick. I don't care.
I can't trust you.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it for my list of gripes.
No, I think you had one big one at the end.
Yeah, but we'll save that for the last
part. Right.
Okay.
Well, okay. So what we did I'll go first. I liked Han. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I think, had a problem with him.
I played him too. I did.
I didn't. I think he did a great job with what he was given. I don't think he wrote those lines, so you can't hold those groaners against him.
Right.
But I think after the first scene after the first like war scene, I was like, I forgot that he wasn't Han, like he wasn't an actor playing Han. I believed he was Han Solo at that point.
Yeah,
that was good.
Those times when he smiled, where I was like, oh, he kind of looks like.
He kind of looks like Harrison Ford. You know, he does that smile thing. Yeah, I liked it. Loved Chewie, and I absolutely loved Lando because Lando had a lot of. I think he had about as much pressure on him to play what Billy D. Williams had set up as Lando. And he had a lot of riding on him where he had to be like Lando. But a more immature version of Lando because he's not Lando yet. You know, he's kind of just he's flying by the seat of his pants just like Han, and he struck a really good medium between the two. Like this is Billy D, but this is also Donald Glover.
Yeah, you want my theory?
Oh, here we go. Hold on. No more theories.
No more
Where's
theories.
The theme song?
No more theories. I'm joking. I was just gonna say Donald Glover was probably acting his fucking heart out. Like, to be able to play a character that you grew up watching in a film, he was probably fucking ecstatic, like, off the walls excited about this shit. And I think it shows, because I really liked him in the movie. And if you guys have heard the Spider-Man Homecoming podcast, you know that I wasn't too fond of him in that movie. I mean, he
had, like, 2 lines in the movie.
I know, but even that bothered me. I was like, just fucking, what are you doing here?
No,
you know, like,
you have to fix this.
Yeah, it was just weird.
Listen, okay, so those 3 things I think we can agree on. Anytime those 3 characters were on screen talking to each other, the movie was brilliant to
definitely.
me.
I really liked those 3 characters. Chewie, Han, and Lando were the trio to follow.
I was pretty... I wasn't one way or another on the robot, to be honest. I felt it... I felt that, again, spoilers for anybody, but like the ultimate climax of what happens between the robot co-pilot and Lando, that made me sad, but more for Lando and not about so much about the robot.
Let me chime in here with something I like. The movie doesn't start with the title crawl.
Oh right,
the movie starts with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We're at whatever. I leaned over to Ernie, right, and I was about to say, is every fucking movie gonna start like this? And as soon as I was gonna say that, it goes to another like thing that's like trying to explain the story, but not in that title crawly way. So
just the blue font.
So I brought my head back to my seat and I was like, okay, let's see what they do here. And then it just says Solo,
like a Star Wars story.
Yeah, in like this kind of like light up sign looking thing.
Yeah,
and like you go through the logo, and I was like, okay, all right.
You know, that's one of the things I really enjoyed about this movie is that there was. I can't say there were no lightsabers in this movie. I can't, although I would love to say that. I can't say there were no lightsabers in this movie. There wasn't,
right?
There was one lightsaber in this movie.
Okay. Okay, yes, you're right. You're right.
But, like, the Empire is there, but not there. You know, it's there in that, like, it's a problem that's happening, but it doesn't affect Han just yet. So Star Wars is there. But this is, like... The less about, funnily enough, the less about Star Wars in terms of like the main stories, less of that there was in this movie, the more I liked it.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, they tried to stuff a lot of Star Wars references into it, and that was making it feel less like a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
Whereas like Han and Chewie are about Han and Chewie just talking like buds.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of like, oh, here, remember the dice? Yeah, put these on your car at home and you're gonna be Han Solo too, kind of like a lot of like it almost like.
I'm surprised they don't sell those dice
like
on
they
Amazon.
Probably do. They are probably expensive. It's in my head. I'm just thinking like, stop with like this merchandise fucking like plot that you have. I know that's what it is. You know.
Yeah.
It's but fuck, I was gonna say something else that I liked about the movie and I can't remember now. God damn it. Anyway. Keep going with whatever you were saying.
Okay, so in terms of, like I said, all the stuff that they omitted about the Star Wars universe made me like it more. The way that the movie progressed up until like the actual heist, I really liked. Like for example, when he tries to make his way through the galaxy, that stuff's interesting to me. Although I like I said, the parts when kind of Star Wars seeped in, I didn't like. But like the bar scene where they're all trying to get this ship to do the deal to blah blah, those things were really great. I love seeing Han in these seedy bars, dealing with criminals and stuff. That's great.
I was gonna say the card game.
The card game was fantastic.
The card game with him and Lando, I was actually like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is what I want to see. Less about like fucking terms that I don't even understand. Like,
yeah,
I don't remember what the element was called or like what planet they were going to. I was like, I don't want to hear about that shit. You think Han Solo wants to hear about that shit?
No,
like,
he wants to know how much he gets out of it.
He wants to shoot guys, and he wants to, be just, escape by the skin of his teeth or whatever the fuck, you know, like.
But see, that's the stuff that I like when Lando's like, "Oh, I got a ship," and he's all cocky about it, and then he's like, "Oh my gosh, somebody put a boot on my ship. Hey, can you take this boot off my ship?"
Yeah.
I was like, love that.
Yeah, because you
love that.
You get to see that Lando is not as, classy as he makes himself out to be.
He's not who he is yet. You know what I mean? That's what I thought Donald Glover brought to it. Because, like, there's that part where he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll take that boot off your ship for 5% more of your cut." And he's like, and he turns around and he's kind of like, "I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I'll do it." And then the guy goes, "You're getting better at this negotiation stuff, Lando." And I was like, dude, that's perfect. I love that. So you realize he's not Cloud City yet. He's still like immature Lando.
I mean, even I would say arguably even in like Empire, he's not super like. He's still kind of like that dirtbag like Han.
Oh, he definitely, like, him and Han are definitely still kind of slimy, but that's the part about Empire that's so brilliant. You know, it's like Lando finds his heart again in the moment, but like he was doing what he thought was right. Like Lando doesn't really have an arc in terms of like a bad guy turned good, because when the Empire came to them, they're like, if you don't do what we say, we're just gonna kill everybody here. Mm-hmm. So he didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, he did what he had to do. They have a little funny joke too about how he says, "My name is Han," and then he says, "Han, got it," and he's like, and then Solo's,
that's a good one.
And then like, Han Solo's like, "Oh, well, it's Han, but whatever, it's fine." What do you think about the way Han Solo got his name in the beginning?
That's neither here nor there. Those are the moments that I felt like you didn't need to do this. There are moments that are done better, like the way that Han got his blaster. Tobias had a spare blaster, and he's like, "Hey, here, make sure you don't mess up tomorrow." And he looks at it, and then that's it.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
And that's all. That was all I needed. He's like, "Oh, that's where he got the gun. He got it from Tobias." There's no like, my father gave me this gun, and it's a special gun that my family and in my people. This is, and it's like, it's not a special gun. It's just the gun he happened to have.
This gun is called the Solo. Oh my god!
Oh my goodness!
That is so cool. I should use that name.
I should use that name. And I love that, like, the clothes that he has and everything are kind of, you don't. Again, these are things that didn't get said, but they're just assumed to be part of it. Like his belt buckle and everything that he wears in the original Star Wars trilogy, those are Tobias's clothes.
It looks like it could just be his clothes.
Yeah, and because he's a bounty hunter, because he was doing the whole spinny gun thing and everything, that's where he's like, Han. He's like, teach me how to do that.
Okay,
he's trying to mirror him.
From here on out, spoilers, complete spoilers. If you're gonna watch Han Solo, go watch it before you finish this podcast, because I have a really big, weird problem with the end of this movie.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'm giving you time to turn off the podcast.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, Darth Maul is in this fucking movie. Why is he in this fucking movie? I turned to Ernie after the movie ended and the credits were rolling down the screen. I turned to Ernie and I said, "Why the fuck is Darth Maul in this movie?" Like, look, I get it. If story-wise, sure. If it makes sense, that's fine. I don't care. I'm saying, why do you put Darth Maul in a Han Solo movie? Like, that goes back to what you were saying about, like, oh, the marketing thing. Like, they were probably like, hey, let's...
I'm going to tell you, that's exactly why they did it. You know why? It accomplishes two things that would, like, that sends money symbols just flying up in the air.
Yeah.
And it connects it to the Star Wars... I believe it's either the Star Wars Rebel or one of the two cartoons that they put out that tells the story of Darth Maul's rise to, like, a criminal boss.
Okay.
So that's one thing it does. The second thing it does, it gets you hyped for an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie.
Yeah. Okay, that's true, yeah.
So it's like, Ewan McGregor's already like, I'm rock hard for this thing, so let's do it.
You know what? It was funny, though, because we were talking about it, like, afterwards, and we're like, it's one thing to show him, right, in the hologram.
Right. Yeah.
It's another thing to have him take his lightsaber out and like show it to the person he's talking to. Like, is he like FaceTiming her and like showing him like? No one does that naturally. Like, it just seems
it's the equivalent of taking out a katana while you're FaceTiming somebody and be like,
yeah, like pointing it, like waving it, or like pointing it at the screen. Like, what are you doing with that? Like, you look like a wanker. You're not. What are you doing? But anyway,
now again. Just so everybody understands, in terms of Darth Maul and what the fuck is he doing there, I thought he died. Somebody told me the exact circumstances of his survival.
Mm-hmm. You can say Kevin.
Well, it's basically Kevin. So I want to make sure that I explain what happened here, so it doesn't seem as far fetched. But essentially, when he fell down at the end of Phantom Menace.
Okay, real fast. Let me stop you. I just wanted to say. It's not before episode 1, if that's what you're thinking.
This is
after. So
I think they said it's like 10, 20 years before A New Hope.
Yeah, so Darth Maul survived.
He survived the fall and the slicing in half of himself because they're like, well, Darth Vader did it. You know, so it's possible with the medicine. So essentially, his mother, Darth Maul's mother, finds him and repairs his bottom half by giving him robots. Parts, right?
So he's got robot legs.
He's got them robot legs, and then he works his way through the crime syndicate and becomes essentially what she was part of this whatever it was called. I forget. It was the gangster name, the Crimson something.
Crimson Dawn, I think.
Crimson Dawn. So that gangster setup or whatever faces off against the Hutts.
Okay.
And so essentially, this also does if you think about it, Han goes off with the Hutts. This lady goes off with the Crimson Dawn, so at some point they're gonna clash again.
Okay. Let me give you 2 more. Okay, finish up.
Okay, and then so because he's risen to the status of like I'm the king of this thing, like I thought I saw his horns will be a little bigger. He looks much older. He's not super thin or whatever. And then his lightsaber, if you noticed, was like more ordained than it was before.
Yeah, it was a lot more like refined. It didn't.
Yeah, so it has to do with the fact that he's taken over. So his like lightsaber's a collection of other things.
Yeah.
Hopefully Kevin's not screaming at the podcast right now.
He probably is,
and he'll be in the comments below, I'm sure.
What I was gonna say is, just let me add one more thing to both those lists here: the pros and cons.
Okay.
What I didn't like about I'll start with a good one. I liked that Han Solo shoots Tobias mid-sentence.
Yes.
Because I didn't want it to be like this thing where like they drag out the whole like, oh, this is like when Han Solo first does his like shooting thing, you know? I'm glad that they ended it quick. You know, it's just like, okay, cool. He finally learned something, I guess, right? That's what they were trying to say the whole time, is that like, cool. Emilia Clarke playing this character named Kira, I think. I wasn't sure if she was just supposed to be unlikable because her character ends up betraying everybody or whatever. I don't know if like that was the whole point, but the whole time I was thinking like, man, do I not like this character? You could almost do the Red Letter Media thing where you're like, okay, without describing what she looks like, tell me what this character is.
Well,
you can't really like.
Like there's two versions of her, right? And the problem is, and I'll try to say this as quickly as possible because it's gonna take. This could be a whole nother podcast to discuss the interaction there, but her character starts off as this innocent thing and then becomes this cold, hard, calculated gangster. But you don't have enough time with the nice one to feel sorry about what she has turned into, because she says it in so many words that she's done things that he could never forgive. So that means murdering people, causing somebody to be like taken away from their family, any number of things that would make anybody you know be like, I don't know you anymore. Okay, let's call that one a tie then, because I wasn't sure on that one either. But see, that's the thing. You spend 80% of the movie with that version of her, and like 10 minutes with the nice version of her that says, Han, run! Because you get like a conversation with them about this thing and how they're going to go off and do a thing, but you don't know what she's like when they're not, running from gangsters. Yeah. All you got was like 2 minutes with her and saying, Han, where have you been? I've been looking for you. This is why I didn't like it, because I didn't want it to be like one of these things where they're like, oh, you don't get to learn a lot about her, but you will in this next film. But that's what I don't want to hear, basically, Right, but like some of the cool stuff about, like, for example, the first A New Hope is that, you know, you meet Han and he's like this cold calculating whatever a smuggler. But throughout the movie you see he has like a heart, right? And that's why you end up liking him, and that's why you're like, oh no, he got frozen in carbonite.
I think that was, well, like I was saying in the beginning, is like the characters just didn't feel like super likable to me.
Except for those three.
Yeah.
Except for those
Han,
three.
Chewie, and Lando, yes.
And I think I would love the movie a whole lot more if it was more them.
If you're telling me that if there was less characters, I would like the movie more, yes.
Yes. I 100% think that. I think I don't want to say Kira was unnecessary. I think she could have been replaced by maybe like some sort of mother figure. Because there was a whole thing with Lando where he goes like, I didn't love my father. My mother? That's another story.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, that feels like there was some sort of arc between them having mothers that they really loved, and then all of a sudden he's like, my mother's back on something and I'm gonna go find her.
Yeah, that's true.
And it feels like that was supposed to be a storyline almost. Okay. Because like, I don't know, it just felt like when she gets ripped away, she says, run, hon, or whatever. It was like, that could have been him trying to get some member of his family out.
Well, from what I hear, they're thinking about a Lando movie too with that guy.
Dude, with how he played it, I would love it, but I don't know if it's gonna happen now that like this movie didn't do well.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I don't know.
But look, my way to fix this would have been to take her out, do the mother thing, because a mother, if you mention a mother, automatically that instills all sorts of feelings in people, and you don't have to know her to like her, because you're like, that's Han's mother. Yeah. She took care of him when he was a baby. She loves him.
And let me just say something real fast. Emilia Clarke is beautiful. For one.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I didn't like her. How is that possible? How can you make a beautiful woman unlikable like that, you know?
Very easily.
Like, we just saw Thor Ragnarok. I'm looking at Tessa Thompson, and I'm like, she's a goddess, dude. I love this character.
Actually, it's crazy, right? Because you also see Cate Blanchett, and she's just like this... She's a much older lady, but I'm just like, dude, this woman is fantastic, dude. Like, I was like, that's a 50-year-old woman? That's insane.
It's like, there's motivation there.
Yeah.
You know, like in that movie, there's all sorts of motivation.
When you see a character that has a purpose, and you see that they're either one way or another, something that's not gray, it's just black and white, they're a lot easier to get a reading on. And I think that's what it is.
Okay, let me leave you with the biggest groaner, in my opinion. Okay.
Here we go.
L3, okay, her name is L337, by the way, which is, beautiful. I mean, just... Come on, like, how do you...
Is that her real name?
That's her real name, L337.
I
was so disappointed. Stupid. She dies, first of all, okay? And then they say, let's plug her brain into the Millennium Falcon, right? Let's see if we can do that.
I know which line you're reading to.
And they plug her into the Millennium Falcon, and then Lando says, she's part of the ship now.
Oh,
and
boy.
I just wanted to, like...
Oh, boy!
I just wanted to grab... I wanted to grab somebody else's popcorn and throw it at the screen in fucking anger just because I was like, come on, dude.
That seemed like it was an executive line. Like, those groaners always stood out so much, and I was like, that's an executive line.
It just felt so like...
It felt like, you know what? It felt like,
part...
this is the conversation that happened. She's like, I don't like that the robot dies because she's like this freedom fighter and she's kind of a feminist. Like a feminist for robots and stuff, and like I'm not saying this is what they is. This is the conversation that happened. It's like, is there any way we could keep her around? And it's like, I mean, they could plug her into the ship. He's like, okay, I just want to make sure that it's very apparent to the audience that she's part of the ship now. I'll just have Lando say she's part of the ship now. He's like, that's perfect. Yeah. I love that. I love that. That's gonna get that demographic that we need. That's gonna get like this. That's the conversation that happened.
I don't have so much a problem with the line. The line was pretty like, yeah, like why the fuck did he have to say that? But it's more that like, so now when I'm watching the original trilogy now, I'm supposed to believe she's part of the ship? Like,
maybe that's why Lando's like, hey baby, I'm back.
Yeah, like you gotta ruin the shit I already like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, it wouldn't be so much of a groaner too if they didn't have the cinematography had a lot to do with why they were such groaners, because like it was a shot that was from above at Lando's face, and like he looks almost straight into the camera, and they do a little bit of a pan, and then pause. He says the line, pause. Like they made an executive decision to bookend that with 2 pauses, and then it goes right back to a straight shot.
I think okay.
It's like they put a big magnifying glass on it.
Yeah, that was my main problem with it. Like if you were,
he could have just said it like, "All right, man." Well, he's like, he plugs it in. He's like, "She's part of the ship now. I think the navigation should work now." Like
that line, it kills me.
I know, but it could have been said another way. She's like, she's integrated with the ship now. The navigation should be kicking in. Like it could have been a line like that even, but they're like, no. Her spirit is in the ship. It was like, oh my goodness.
Oh my god. Yeah, it just had like this religious vibe to me. Like oh my god.
I understand that the robot, she meant a lot to him. And there was this whole thing about him. He's like, she was in love with him and he loved her too. Maybe not in a like a girlfriend or that kind of way. But he definitely loved her like a captain loves his crew.
It's just so weird that like you try to introduce a character like that in a prequel, and it's like, okay, so if they're that important, how come they're never fucking mentioned throughout the other like films? You know, like. Well,
I know we're going a long ways on this thing, but in a parallel movie, Rogue One,
yeah,
I was super sad when the robot died.
Yeah, that was a little bit different though.
But I really loved him. He was so cool and so awesome, and then when I actually saw him sacrifice himself for something, that actually meant something to me.
Okay, but it's like, it's not like he fucking like, it's not like he went into the Obi-Wan lightsaber and they're like, he's part of the lightsaber now. You know? Like, that would have been fucking stupid.
Of course it would have been stupid. That's why his death actually meant something. Okay, like...
Hold on, real fast.
Okay.
I think it could have worked if they wouldn't have played it up so much, basically.
That's what I'm saying.
So, like, let's say, like, before she dies.
Yeah.
Let's say they call her a hunk of junk. That would have been like, okay, maybe they're foreshadowing something here, you know? Okay. They call her a hunk of junk. They always call the Millennium Falcon a hunk of junk. You know?
What a piece of junk.
And let's say, like, when she dies, she just plugs herself in.
Yeah.
Right? Unbeknownst to everyone else. And they're like, oh, somehow the navigation's working again.
And then they discover her.
Yeah, or they don't even have to. It could just be like this, oh, they don't talk about it in the rest of the films because they don't know. Or they never knew. Right. Kind of thing, you know? Like, why not do something clever as opposed to...
Because some executive was like, I need to make sure that this happens because we're trying to satisfy... Because if we don't, somebody might pull their money out and blah, blah, blah. This is like a total marketing thing. And the only reason I know it's a marketing thing is because... It, like in graphic design and anything artistic, the less you do, but the more that's implied, the better, because somebody's own imagination will fill in these spots.
Yeah,
kind of thing. But when you talk to an executive, they're like, "Where I have a check mark box here, okay, and it says it needs to say this," and you're like, "Well, it's kind of implied," and you're like, I don't know what that means. I know that I need to have these words on that graphic.
And you're like, implied doesn't check the box.
It doesn't check the box, okay? We need this to look luxurious. Well, it does look, but I need you to put luxury. I need you to put those words there so somebody could read it and understand it. It was like, because, you know, the best brands in the world do that. I'm like, oh, Jesus. They don't.
I need this fucking kid to know that she's part of the ship, all right? Explain it to them. It's
like some of the best brands in the world. They just show you everything. It's like, you know, when you see Starbucks, well, it doesn't usually say Starbucks. It's just the logo there. But you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh boy. But he's like, it's part of the ship now.
Yeah. Okay. Enough about that. Would I recommend Solo? I guess that's the big question here.
Right? I would recommend Solo. I would. Because I think you'll have a good time. But will you buy it afterwards? Will you be like, dude, I gotta get me an L3 action figure. I gotta get me a Millennium Falcon with the part in the middle.
No, if you have the Millennium Falcon, she's part of the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
So you already have it. Actually, it's two toys in one.
I would go see it in the theaters because one thing I will say is the music was good. Felt very Star Wars without being Star Wars, and they had little melodies in it that I think. Like when Chewie and Han sit in the Millennium Falcon for the first time.
Yeah, they finally play like the main...
They just do it, like there's just one bar of it, and then that's it.
Yeah, I will say that I liked they did some reprises of like music from the original films and stuff, which were pretty good.
I liked them because it was like it's a subtle foreshadowing. Subtlety is the word there.
Real fast to kick it back to Ragnarok. Ragnarok has like this crazy electronic music going on, and I love it. I just love how the tone of that movie is just so crazy and fun and sporadic. But I would recommend Han Solo too. If you're down to watch a movie, you got nothing better to do, I would say it's a fun film to go watch.
I mean, I would say watch it once. Also, if you're at all a Star Wars fan, I'm sure that this will just kind of expand the universe for you a little bit. So you kind of know where Han is from and what he had to deal with when he first kind of appeared in Star Wars.
You know what's real?
But I think both Lando, Han, and Chewie all did a really great job, and I think their performances are enough to watch the movie and enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a stellar movie, though. That I won't say.
Yeah, I wouldn't say either. I would highly recommend Thor Ragnarok, though.
I would, too.
I don't want to oversell it, okay? I love things. That's it. I'm not a fucking professional movie critic. But I would say...
I thought that was the whole point of this podcast.
Oh, is it? Sorry. No, I would just say give it a chance. Because I know a lot
I think you'll be very surprised with how good Ragnarok is. Because if you've seen any of the other films, you think Thor is one way. This is one where he takes a left turn, and I think you'll enjoy it.
That's what I'm saying.
Really
if you're gonna watch a Thor movie, watch this one. You know, if you've been soured on Thor at this point, you know, just give him a shot.
Yeah,
give this third one a shot
for sure.
But that's it, guys. All right. Closing in on an hour here.
Closing in?
Yeah.
More like we did an hour.
Oh, shit. The timer's off. Okay. That's it for this week, guys. See you next week.
See you next week, guys. And happy anniversary, sweetie.